Greetings everyone, it's Shaman again on a beautiful Sunday. I'm also at the dog park so the dogs two of the dogs of three of the pack can run around and get some sunshine and play with lots of other dogs. I'm going to turn this around just so you can see how many people. Well, Pablo's over here by me and Luna's way over there playing with a bunch of standard poodles. I kind of pulled my hair back because I'm getting some really nice dreadlocks in there. Good to see you, Jackie. Bless up. Today I'm having some tea which you might be interested in. I wrote down the ingredients of what I'm drinking today, which is herbs. It's made out of herbs, and herbs are plants, and plants are herbs are plants, and plants are food. So this is a part of how I teach people or guide people to make their food their medicine. Now, it's one thing to remove mucus, to detoxify, to do intermittent fasting, to go alkaline, but because of what's going on in the world today, because of what is now happening in the world, we have more and more diagnosis codes coming out every day. More and more different names for things, So sometimes I call them the Harry Potter words. And there's also more and more medications, more scanning machines that you get into, more solutions and potions that you drink, a lot more chemical therapies and radiation and radioisotope killing of your thyroid. And I realize that after really doing not alternative medicine but original medicine for 35 years, and everything that I learned as a young girl growing up in San Jose, California, publishing my book Detox and Heal Your Thyroid, moving with dogs and people, and just lots and lots of experience, that this is what I was destined to be in my life, as someone who's caring. That's why my birth name, my slave name, my birth certificate is Karen. I'm someone who cares. Okay. So the tea that I'm having today, I wrote it down. It is mugwort, spearmint, peppermint. I love for many decades now I'm an herbalist through American School of Herbalism, Michael Tierra and Christopher Hobbs in Santa Cruz over 20 years ago. And I love using mugwort. I used to sleep with it under my pillow to produce vivid and lucid dreams. Spearmint is lovely. Peppermint, Dr. Sabi, will tell you is not a real, but it's a hybrid. What else do I have? I have mullein leaf, mullein flower. I have yarrow, and yarrow is something that you want to use if you need to help someone to sweat, because a lot of people will come and say, I just can't sweat. I can't break out a sweat. So it takes until they get something they call the flu or other symptoms where they break out into a fever and still they don't sweat properly. So yarrow is a great herb for that, as well as menstrual difficulties, as well as other things. I also have licorice root. I use licorice root a lot. Kim, bless up, I've sent Kim real licorice root so that you can break them in half or put them in the pot whole, and it's just one of the most simple teas you could possibly make. It's extremely anti-inflammatory, so not just curcumin, aka turmeric, but not just garlics and gingers and all these things and apple cider vinegars, but every one of them, as you get to move with people and you help them to heal themselves, because we're never healers. We are guides, shamans, wise women, priestesses, goddesses, medicine men that help other people to go on the journey to heal themselves. I also have lobelia, and lobelia is wonderful. It helps a person to breathe. It's a good respiratory. It's also really good when I see the sodium-potassium ratio off on my hair tissue mineral analysis, and I want to help someone to come out of addictive patterns. So depending on what their addictive patterns are, lobelia is another, and I kind of think of it like a lobo, like the wolf. It's like the wolf of the herbal world that I pull out. So, in 20-something years, I've kind of gotten my own affinities and connections with the plant world in terms of what I use. Recently, in the last 15 to 17 years, I've been buying not maybe 15 or 17, but in maybe the last many years, I've been buying from a company called Anahata Herbals. They do a lot of wild foraging, so they go out into the woods and they're collecting these herbs, you know, out in all of this beautiful nature that we have here in northeast Minnesota. And so that's a little bit about what I'm drinking. I did mention yesterday on my page that I was going to be dropping a live stream about, you know, elements and how they were used against you. And so after I shared with you a little bit about what I'm drinking in terms of my tea, which is so easy to make with a French press pot, you really just put the herbs in there at a therapeutic dose, which is typically about 2 ounces of tea, or you can follow the directions on the package and you put your hot water, but not quite boiling, and you press it down. And I like to ideally let mine sit there to steep while I'm getting ready to go out the door, and then put it in my reusable mug to go out. I have been getting into the habit because when fall and winter is here, I like to step up my drinking tea, and then in the summertime I back off of it just a little bit and I switch a little bit more on to sweeter fruit juices and things like that. So toxic elements. When you get a hair tissue mineral analysis, there is a category over to the right hand side, and it's in red, which is our typical, you know, stop sign, warning, you know, alerts, be on the alert. And those are starting with antimony, and they've got lead, arsenic, cadmium, uranium, aluminum, mercury for sure, right? And mercury is the only one that it's a very slippery metal. It's very shape-shifting. It changes form very easily. It likes to sequester itself, hide itself up into the brain, the bones, the kidney, especially, and other parts of the body too. So that's the only one that if I notice on your hair tissue testing that many of the other minerals are really just looking kind of catawampus, you know, some are really super elevated, and you've got 4 or 5 or more, which Dr. Cutler kind of pointed out in his work, then you might be suffering from something called mineral derangement. So these heavy elements that are in the red category, you know, well, where are you going to get arsenic? Well, maybe you were eating a lot of white rice. Maybe you ate a lot of Asian food, or maybe a lot of African food. A lot of even African and West Indian people are really not aware that the real thickness that goes on in the backside and the hips, in the, you know, the pear-shaped bodies that a lot of women get, is due to genetically modified, long before it was introduced as GMO, was fed to people on an experimental basis starting in the late 1800s in the corn, the maize, and what Africans cook a lot. I've got my own fufu paddle. It's a big, long, wooden handle paddle. It's actually a paddle, not a wooden spoon, and you make your fufu with that because you've got to have something really super strong to stir it. So these elements that were used against you, let's go into that because this is really important. So in 2017, I tested my own child's hair, my biological child's hair, because we had some issues coming up. First of all, he'd had a skiing accident at Spirit Mountain and was off in his life, and maybe smoked a little bit of cannabis like, you know, pretty much most of the people do, right, in that age group, and all over. I mean, it's medicine. I didn't have any problem with it. I also didn't have any problem with it whatsoever as a teenager because I think of it as a very a ritual, a sacred rite. I also think of it as getting to know, as Bob Marley, Prophet Marley spoke about, revealing the I to the I self. So I didn't have any problems with that. But a certain doctor, Dr. Gregerson, did a surgery after having had 2 consults with doctors my son wanted to, because you could literally see the clavicle was broken and you could literally see it sticking up on one side. And so it was kind of unnerving, and he was in a lot of pain. And so one doctor, because I encouraged a second and third evaluation, because what I was promoting was, let's go ahead and use Bone Set, Feverfew, the energy work, and I'll get you on my table like several times a week after you start to kind of heal the soft tissue injury on it. I'll give you some herbs to help your bones remineralize quickly, and we'll energetically work that breakdown. Well, just as in the case with modern day Rastas and others that are going for the diagnostic screenings and machinings and medications and all these different things, what's going on is we've entrusted a system that has actually poisoned us. It has actually made the people believe that it's going to heal them, and it's not doing anything of that sort. And now it took me a very, very, very long time to feel like I could speak confidently and competently about that. I got angry, I got upset, I got frustrated. I got frustrated even because financially I wasn't working enough. And I wasn't working enough because people didn't perceive that there was a value, and moreover that there was a trust in what I had to offer. Okay? So when you look at people, you can tell when there's been an intellectual dimming. You can tell when you look at their fingernails, their toenails, their hair. You know, just like with me, myself right now, with complete candid honesty. You can look at my videos on YouTube or Facebook 2 years ago, and you can see that I was 35 pounds slimmer. You can see that I didn't have a lot of this fluid retention around my eyes. You can see a great deal of difference. And stress, changing your diet, destabilizing your life are big, big pieces. And this is why we cannot heal people in hospitals and clinics and $1,000 a week places offshore even, without addressing the mind-body, without doing some of the body work. Luna, Mom's okay. Luna's sitting by the table here. So these heavy elements, they outweigh the nutritional elements. On the other side, on the blue side of your hair tissue mineral analysis report, your hair testing, I just loosely call it hair testing, in the blue are your nutritional elements, and you know them as Dr. Sebi talked about them, and many, many others that are now with the ancestors with great respect, as your minerals. So Dr. Sebi put Irish moss and bladderwrack together, and he talked about getting a lot of his information from a Mexican shaman. That shaman's name was Dr. Shook. Okay, he's actually got a lot of wonderful information online, and he's now gone too. There's many, many others that walk the earth that are also gone now through natural and unnatural causes. Okay, bless up, Kim. Bless up, everyone. It's good to see you. So when I tested my son's hair in 2017, it turned out, because problems started to ensue when doctors are, in error. They have erroneous thinking. They have thinking errors. Did they do it on purpose? I'm not saying that for Dr. Gregerson here. Do our people ask for more? They do often when it comes to opioids, pain relievers, and benzos. This is no surprise, and this is happening because of the systemic and central nervous system anxiety, because of the fact most of our people are running on the parasympathetic nervous system. That's another thing that your hair tissue mineral analysis is going to tell you, is if you're a slow 1, 2, 3, or 4 or a fast 1, 2, 3, or 4 metabolizer, so that you're going to know. I feel like I'm in a really blinding spot here, so I'm going to get up for a moment. You're going to know if you're parasympathetic or sympathetic dominant, okay? So in my son's, see, I've got a kind of a busted camera on the front here. On my son's test, he was elevated in lead. And lead is one of those toxic heavy metals. It's very heavy in weight, that it starts to overpower the nutritional elements. So if your thyroid and your metabolism, so your thyroid's going to be slow if your metabolism's slow, and under that it meant that your adrenals were already slow, okay, then what's going to happen is the lead is going to start to overpower your magnesium. It's going to start to interfere with all of those other nutritional elements because it's heavy. It's heavy in weight, it's destructive in the body, and the body doesn't know what to do with it. So now, there's lots of people that are coming up with all different kinds of terminology. Okay, I'm just going to kind of move my stuff here because the dogs are kind of bashing the table. Give me just a second here. Okay. All right. So one of the things that lead actually does is it damages your neurologic system. It lowers what's called the IQ, so it lowers your intelligence. So you can take someone who before, was used to enjoying a very high level of intelligence. And by slowing their thyroid, making sure that you remove certain things from the human diet, from the soil, from the way the food has been certified through the FDA and the USRDA, okay? And you can do that, and you can now cause people to become progressively, intellectually, intelligently dimmed, okay? So their vocabularies are going to shorten, their memories are going to shorten, but they're going to call it brain fog. There's another thing too, I wrote this down here, it's called BDNF, which is Brain-Derived Neurotropic Factor. I hesitate to even bring this up because I've been around for a very long time, and I've heard we've now found this, and we've now found that, and we now know this does this. And some of them are really outstanding, and I really appreciate them. And others tend to lead into a lot of gimmickry and gadgetry and potions being sold. Whenever you call something a potion, you're kind of making it a little bit of a put down in a snarky way. And so that's what's going on there. But here's what one person had to say, was that it basically is like, one person that I quickly did a Google on mentioned that the BDNF, the brain-derived neurotropic factor, right? So basically what you want to think of is that lead is going to interfere with the feeding of your mitochondria. This one person that I Googled, BDNF, refers to it as the fertilizer of the brain, and that's because your mitochondria are everything. Now, I believe I might have been the first person to make this discovery, and I might be completely wrong, because I really genuinely believe that everything that we have is handed down, and that's why I'm always appreciating my own elders and my ancestors that are no longer here. They've transitioned. So if you look at the African Indinkra, okay, and it's carved on one of my djembes at home that I have on a wooden trunk, right? It looks to me pretty much like a mitochondria, okay? So that was something that I made one day, just kind of sitting there, because I live solo in a very quiet environment, and for a time I had Anthony and Zawa living there. Previous to that, I was living entirely alone, and the first time that you do that during a winter, it might be 20 below, you open the door, it's like letting a freezer in, all this eerie looking, cold air comes in like a big cloud, when you open the door to let the dogs out. And it feels really eerie, because you think, well, what if I fall down the basement steps? Or what if I got shocked? Or what if I get on the ladder to clean something and I fall and I break my neck? Like, no one's going to check on me for a couple of days. But you see, then you develop this communication with yourself where you take less chances like that. You kind of start to become your own best friend, so to speak. So this is something that I wish everyone had the opportunity to do, but that most people will never do. They will never do it, right? They will never live the way that I've lived, and I would live even more differently than that if I were afforded the ability to actually live the way that I would really love to live, okay? So when it comes to my working with a variety of different people with a variety of different diagnoses, many times I've had 4 men in the last 2.5 years that were diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And when I do the hair tissue mineral analysis, I can clearly see the levels of zinc, I can see the levels of mercury, the levels of aluminum, I can see what's going on with their diet, I can hear what's going on with the mind. I'm doing the facial reading, I'm doing the lip reading, I'm doing intuitive and energetic. Sometimes I'm pulling out my cards to look for symbolic, quick, easy to access ways to know what is going on with that person, because many times I need to be able to help them very quickly, because it means that these heavy elements have become so neurotoxic that the first symptom typically is that a person who's going to go into Parkinson's, the first symptom is always constipation, and then maybe that goes away and you clear that up. After that, it's a little bit foggy thinking, a little bit of, you kind of get a little forgetful, just a little bit of brain fog, okay? After that, it starts to affect the neurons in the brain in a very specific way that is neurotoxic, and it's because of these heavy elements, it's because of the lifestyle, the way of life, okay? So I am putting together a very complex plan that I've learned to do in a very short amount of time. I know there's a lot of people out there that remove mucus, they detoxify, they might even just do hair tissue testing, and they kind of help the person interpret it and get on the right supplements. I'm doing a lot more than that. And yes, I need to have the person physically present in an ideal situation, which is why I wanted to get into the RV, a 10-year or newer RV that I could put all three of the dogs into, especially because Fire's got some health issues. He can't walk very far anymore. And I wanted to be able to be at someone's own residence, but have my own space where I go out and I can walk the dogs in the morning, you know, go work with the person for, you know, hours or an hour or two a day up to a whole day, right? Make their juice, supervise what's going on, work with the team, you know, if they want a team of doctors and specialists and oncologists, and we're all putting together a plan for that person. I'm their ideal person. I really am. With my last few clients, I had them using RSO, so I also infuse cannabis oil. Rick Simpson's oil is an oil that's been around for a long time. It's a very highly potentiated oil. I even taught my clients how to make their own. I got them set up with the ability to have a machine that would make it easier for them to do that. And this is not 2019, this is even before that. So I was educating the folks here in Minnesota by sending home a DVD that they could watch that had clips of cannabis juicing and using Rick Simpson's oil, because these were folks that were in their late 60s and 70s that still believed that cannabis was dope, right? They had called the police on their children when they were, you know, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, and they were wanting to smoke cannabis. They were wanting to reveal themselves to themselves. And so this is where parental supervision comes in when you have a child that's going to want to use cannabis. I'd rather that they use it with me than they're out there taking a chance and smoking a blunt with someone, and who knows, because today you need to be wary that there's also potentially fentanyl involved. Bless up, Naya, good to see you. Okay, so I do support teenagers using cannabis in a supervised setting, and that also puts me into an undesirable category for a lot of people, because it's always been the assumption, the scientism and medical assumption, that that's not an okay, some gnats out here, thing for our children to be on, right? And so now we're finding that that's absolutely not true. So why does cannabis relieve seizures? And that's because there are minerals inside of the cannabis, tetrahydro, right? Earth, water. There are elements and minerals, which are elements, boy, the gnats are really getting at me, which are inside cannabis, which are healers. When someone has degenerated to a level, degeneration, lost energy, lost ATP, lost thyroid function, lost, this dog behind me is like, what the hell, when Luna came running up, and Pablo, I'm laughing. When they've lost energy and they no longer even want to eat as much, they'd already gone through a phase where they wanted to eat all the time. Kim and I, Naya, we can relate to this. Pam, all of us, we can relate to that. Bless up, everyone. Because you're looking for the minerals. So if you eat a pizza and you're eating brats and burgers and cheeseburgers and French fries and all those things, right? And as I've admitted, I know what to do. You can go back and look at my videos and all my pictures, and you can see maybe, excuse me, 2 or 3 times in my life where I'll use the expression that Ox used to use, I blew up, you know, not during the time we were together, but there's been 3 or 4 times that something hit me really, really hard. You can see it in me holding Zawa on my lap as a baby. Well, he almost died when he was 6 days old. And he almost died because I was told everyone could breastfeed, and that just is not true. Okay, so I blew up. So when you have stress hormones hit you really hard, that cortisol hits you, you've got the opportunity at that point to either completely bridle yourself, and I'm going to choose that word really carefully, and say, I'm not going to go eat, neat. But when that cortisol hits in your body, the fight or flight and the stress hormones hit, this is why people get very, very selfish. This is why they're butting in when you're talking. This is why they're just, you know, really anxious, and they're, you know, because their adrenals have shut down. They were in fear, they were in stress, they were replaying the trauma of events that happened to them. And they're much more likely to find something that's going to soothe their pain. In my case, it was French fries. It was still plant-based, but you can go really, really yucky when you're plant-based. And if you get shook up enough, even as someone who's a healer or a guide or a shaman, a medicine woman, a medicine man, you might oversmoke cannabis, right? You can overdo, if you look at Ayurvedic science, an over 5,000-year-old science, the ancient medicines, which I was also trained in with Cynthia Koppel, and TCM, which I also got a lot of training at 5 branches in SoCal, traditional Chinese medicine. You can overdo anything. So I had French fries, I had wheat pretzels, I had coffee. You know, coffee is another one that I love. Aries Latham's, you know, big up to Aries Latham, who's also, he's also my elder, who said, you know, coffee just whips your adrenals. Well, I love coffee. I've got a connection with coffee. I mean, I love the taste of it. I don't really care about the caffeine. On those rare occasions when I had to drive really late at night, you know, through the heroin addiction debacle, but I love the taste of coffee. I really do. And so, you know, I knowingly, willfully and knowingly, in an unstabilized, a destabilized state of mind, partook of pretzels, cookies, things that were plant-based and largely vegan, maybe not entirely, but they bulked a bunch of weight on me. So, you know, I'm 35 pounds, I don't know if you can see me because my camera's kind of weird, 35 pounds over, and you can see it more than anything around a person's eyes, okay? So when I'm on the screen with people, I'm looking at their eyes, I'm looking at their skin tone, I'm looking, you know, I just pulled all my dreadies back because they were just kind of flying around out here. And it's kind of nice to have them down for a while too. I've got 4, that gnat will not leave me alone. 4 nice ones. So the gist of this live stream is that, can you imagine what it feels like to me that when someone has become sick, ill, toxic, diseased, we're not talking burn, fall, cut, injury, we're not talking medical care from the allopathic system where you got to go in and get stitched up, or you got to absolutely have a pain reliever, or you know, you've cracked a bone. So there's a really minute use for diagnostic machines, but there's no way in hell you're going to get me into an MRI. There's no way in hell I would have ever gotten into a CT scan if I hadn't passed out after the abuse, the police abuse, the abuse of power, excuse me, in front of my home. And 2 of those officers are gone now. They're passed away out of the 4. So it is what it is. A lot of people talk about karma. And I'm not saying that that's what happened with these officers. But our people would not be turning to addiction animal abuse, allowing these kinds of foods that are allowed in the grocery store if we had our full gamut of intelligence, and we don't. Okay? We would not be allowing what's going on in the school system, the religion system, the banking system, the penal system, the legal system, the whole bit. I was in the legal system in very, very high places for almost 18 years. I saw a lot. I've seen a lot as a person who's been guiding, as a coach, a consultant. I mean, I came home this morning at 12:30 is when I arrived home. I had worked for about 6.5 hours helping with an event, and I had helped a young couple that were out of their minds on heroin and alcohol. I mean, not out of their minds, but they weren't safe to just travel by themselves. And I thought to myself, that's someone else's baby out there that would be hoping that someone would care about them. So there are lots and lots of people that I would not have wrapped my arms around, that I would have not have said, hey, I'm going to help you and go out of my way, even if it means I risked the opportunity to help at the event. But I chose to because I could sense that it was okay, that I wasn't putting myself in danger, that I was legitimately going to be able to help them. And so, getting them into a cab. We all have empathy. We all have the ability to start with getting the hair tissue mineral analysis and working ourselves out of stress and trauma and pain through using our daily habits. Okay? So our daily habits were and are getting outside. I have other things I really am behind on, like revising my book and getting it to Anthony, and it's not done. But I can't force or rush something. I also need to take care of myself. I want to check in with the people I love and make sure they're okay. I want to be present in the world. I don't want to live my life chasing money. I don't want to live my life trying to undo the wrong things that were done to me, because I've helped other people after helping myself to undo the wrong things that were done to me. Mercury 23 mercury amalgam spot cavities were in my mouth, identified as a 12-year-old girl, and wrong things were done to me, and I believe with all of my heart that the dentist knew at that time that that was the wrong thing to put in a 12-year-old's mouth. I've looked up and read through, thank you to Kim for posting the Wikipedia source about dental amalgams, because I read through the whole thing, as I often read through and comb through a lot of material, because of elevating my brain and because of the conditioning and the programming in the world today. If you say, my brain is great, I have a phenomenal memory, I can take in copious and voluminous amounts of material, I've got an extensive vocabulary, people will hate you, shun you, and ignore you. If you talk about your pain, you're cutesy, you look sexy, you commoditize yourself, you just talk about how you're going to sell herbs, they will revere you till the sun comes down and back up again. You are a god to them because they cannot compare themselves. And what I'm saying is, and I've consistently said, if I could do it, that means we all could do it. And if we all could do it, or most of us could do it, it means that we can walk out of the domination and domestication that's happening that seems pretty darn obvious to me. So if you're trapped up with feeling like you're incomplete because you don't have your hair dyed, your fingernails done, you don't have fancy jewelry on. This actually was a necklace that my maternal grandmother, Etna, went to the Rosicrucian temple and told me that I was also myself, as are many of you, Isis, Aset, however you feel comfortable calling her, The goddesses are something most of you were never ever taught. But this necklace was given to me at age 9, which is a very sacred age because, as you may know, you go 3 moons, and you go 3 moons again, and you go 3 moons again, and you're your 9th sacred moon. So I made sure, with all my travels and upsets and upheavals and all the things I went through as 18 years old with 20 bucks in the suitcase leaving on my own, to always keep this with me. And when it fell off my neck one time, I took it into a jeweler and paid and had them put a new clasp on the back because it's fallen off more than once. And luckily, I retrieved it, and I'm glad that I did. And I won't be absolutely gone if I didn't have it, but I'm very thankful that I have it because she gave it to me, just like she signed my Merlin Stone book when God was a woman. Okay? So that's basically really all I wanted to say today and to share. I kind of, like I said, I pulled my hair back, and I've got some, this one is super formed, if you can see it here, right? I mean, it's really hardcore formed in there, and lots of the other ones are, and I just really love it when it's down. It looks really beautiful to me because I give myself permission, and I encourage you to do the same thing, to think of yourself as a natural, beautiful goddess. Powerful, connected, beautiful goddess. And so whether I'm that woman in that picture of 1993 on my wall, or right now with the swollen bags around my eyes and the extra 35 pounds, I'm still beautiful. With my, cheapy Walmart vegan boots that I got here for winter. I'll see if you can see them. These are my, my little cheapy boots that I got here, because you have to have something for the winter here. They came in. I have a big foot because I'm tall. I'm a powerful woman. I'm good size, and so those are a size 11. And so they were $24.99 at Walmart, and it's like if you don't buy them, they usually get like 2 size 11, and then you kind of don't find them anymore. But they're getting more these days. Boy, everybody left out of here. There's about 6 dogs left. Just watching a dog just kind of tear after another one. So what's going on? Bless up, Brother Scott. It's good to see you, Scooby. So, what's going on is, really come into who you are. Because 2020, it's really interesting because I got a parking pass that I put on my window the other day, and the number they gave me was 0222, okay? And so I knew when I was a very little girl what my numbers were. Some people have 1, some people have 2, some people have 3, maybe 4. I know my numbers, right? I know my goddess energies. I know which goddesses I really align with, and there will be more in my life, right? And so I want to encourage you just to be a powerful goddess or a powerful god yourself. Step into that, okay? When you need to say it's fuckery and it's this and it's that, I mean, that's a side of you. Unless you're going to take an antidepressant every single day and you're just always going to be this monotone, flat, perfect, flat affect kind of a person. No. I have living waters. And so some days I'm fiery and other days I'm just very calm, Most days now, fall and winter, you're going to hear me drinking the tea that I'm drinking today. The first ingredient is mugwort. And Kim, look for your package tomorrow. And so I'm going to say so long for right now, but you're not going to know what the toxic elements are inside of you, and you're not going to know how to prepare what to get rid of. So you're not going to know if it's aluminum. I'm going to use a certain one of 3 things for people with aluminum based on what the other nutritional elements say. Now, this isn't something that the detoxification and the hair tissue testing, the mind-body medicine, the body work on the table, the energy work, the extreme intuitive abilities, the facial reading, the body language when the person's, through the video conference, the level of knowledge that I got from 35 years of detoxing myself and other people is not something that is readily found. It's not really out there, okay? Even if you went to Dr. Sebi's place, you spent $1,000 a week many, many, many years ago, and you get put on caloric restriction, some of his herbs, and you ate a plate of, fruits, right? And you got to soak in the mineral waters of Honduras, and you got to be around Dr. Sebi, and I would gladly pay $1,000 a week for that. I'm not saying it's wrong. What I'm saying is, I also have medicine, and you don't see people running around saying, hey, Shaman, or Dr. Karen, or, you just don't. And the reason that you don't is because the system is making it more and more competitive and divisive, okay? So you will also hear people, I work with a couple of young white Rastas and also some older folks, and you know, sometimes the number one focus is just their hair, or the number one thing is they've got so much conditioning, right? Or they don't realize that the hospital is going to kill their people. Right? Number one, the hospital doesn't want to see cures, because once they get out there, the people start talking about it, and it's very, very tough for their business, okay? So, what did you say there? Oh, true, yeah. So, I got my dreadlocks sprouting again. They're all going to be freeform. I've got this one is like the most solid. I don't know if you saw that one. But I took and pulled all my hair back with a couple of my bracelets. Anyway, my hair is gorgeous. It's getting long really fast. I know the right herbs and minerals and everything to do. And I did another hair test on myself just about a month, maybe about a month ago. And so if I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't do it myself either. But it's an investment in yourself and your children, whether they've been vaccinated or not, because of what's come down through the multiple generations, which is why that's a big part of my book. And I don't see it in other people's writings, but now that my book's been out there and published, it's kind of free game and people can grab and go, right? I noticed even Dr. Oz is like, detox your thyroid. Well, these are the same people that were laughing at me like 10 years ago. So, you know what I'm saying? So like the Oprahs and the Dr. Oxes and the doctor shows on TV and all that fuckery is, it is what it is. You know, let them do what they do, because the Wheel of Fortune, it don't stop for no man. It don't stop, ever. It's the Wheel of Fortune, and what comes around goes around. So me, I always keep my energy clean. And when I don't, I got to pay for it, right? So that's how things go. So thank you very much for joining me. I was a little calmer than yesterday. And but the messages need to be said, okay? So I love you all, and make it a great day. All right.